Hello and welcome to TVB News. A deadly fire broke out at an aging building in Yau Ma Tei this morning. 5 people were killed and 36 injured in the incident. Around 250 people were rescued by firefighters. Mimo Singai was at the scene.
White smoke could be seen coming out of New Lucky Building at the intersection of Nathan Road and Jordan Road. Many residents were trapped inside the building, with some waving towers to attract attention. Firefighters deployed aerial ladder trucks to rescue trapped individuals. A woman covered her mouth and nose, trying to prevent the heavy smoke. This resident had to wear an oxygen mask. The blaze broke out at 7:53 a.m. and was upgraded to a number 3 alarm around 10 minutes later. The commercial and residential composite building is 60 years old. It has a gym, 30 licensed guest houses, and more than 100 subdivided flats. This mainland tourist stayed in a guest house on the 2nd floor when the blaze broke out. I smelled gas. The smoke was heavy, so we told others not to open the door. The fire started on the 1st floor, but we already felt the heat on our floor, she said. The fire was put out at around 10:30 a.m. Secretary for Security Chris Stan and Director of Fire Services Andy Yuan inspected the fire scene in the afternoon. In a joint briefing held by the police and the Fire Services Department, officials said the blaze broke out on the 1st and 2nd floors of the building. While authorities are still investigating the cause of the blaze, they said the incident may have been caused by the fire hazardous materials.
We have found that some plastic board and some electric wiring are installed at the lobby on 1st floor. So it may be one of the reasons that's caused fire and also the smoke lock alongside the corridor as well as the staircase. So we have set up an investigation team to find out what is the reason of causing the fire spread.
3 males who are locals and 2 females, and we're not sure what their background is.
The officer said the deaths were mainly caused by burn injuries and smoke inhalation.
Police said many evacuated people in the fire were tourists, with some of them planning to return to their home countries today. Mimo Singai, TVB News.
Chief Executive John Lee said the government will provide all necessary support to people who have been affected by the New Lucky Building fire. Mimo Singai again.
When the fire broke out at the New Lucky Building this morning, many tried to flee the site as quickly as possible. But it was not easy to escape such a serious fire. This construction worker became a hero by lending a helping hand. He said he heard people screaming for help. He ran up to 2nd floor and rescued 3 people. I didn't think too much. It was important to rescue those people, he said. Meanwhile, the government has opened the Henry G. Learn Yau Ma Tei Community Center as a temporary shelter for affected residents. The number 3 fire on Jordan Road has led to the death of 5 people with more than 30 injured. Chief Executive John Lee visited some injured residents and family members of the deceased at Queen Elizabeth Hospital this afternoon. The CE said he's deeply saddened by the incident and said authorities will provide the maximum support to affected individuals and their families. A lawmaker said the government should review the fire prevention equipment in old buildings.
I do think that the government should review the whole process. A few years before, there's another big fire accident in Yau Ma Tei. And after that accident, the government has reviewed the fire ordinance for the building safety. We know that they are going to have this bill coming this year to let the government body to go into the buildings to fix the fire system. So we hope this ordinance can go to the electrical as soon as possible.
News 9, TVB News.
The number 4 alarm fire at a Hung Shui Q construction site has raged for about 30 hours, with firefighters still trying to put out the blaze. 2 tower cranes previously deemed unstable are now said to not be in any immediate danger of collapsing. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Flames consumed much of the Hong Kong Housing Society project in Hung Shui Q over the course of the night, with smoke still billowing from the construction site this morning. Firefighters continue to douse the burned structure with water, hoping to lower the temperature. Some residents of nearby Hong Fok Estate said they were affected by a strong smell of smoke. This woman said the smell would charge straight into her apartment after she opened the window, and she was afraid to turn on the air conditioner. This woman says she lives near the construction site. She's worried that the tower cranes will collapse and affect local residents. The fire broke out at around 1:30 p.m. on Tuesday when an acetylene cylinder at the construction site caught fire. Authorities said temperatures there reached 500 degrees Celsius. They said the large amount of metal and wooden structures within the construction site made the work more challenging. Officials said on Wednesday that the 2 tower cranes on the site, standing at heights of 60 and 70 meters respectively, are not in any immediate danger of collapsing after authorities conducted a drone assessment of the structures. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
In Kwai Chung, a fire broke out at a restaurant in Kwai Chung Plaza. No one was injured. Large amounts of smoke could be seen coming out of the shopping mall and covering parts of the road. Police received reports about the fire at around 4 p.m. Firefighters sped to the scene to put out the blaze. Preliminary investigations indicate the fire was caused by an accident involving a kitchen stove. President Xi Jinping, who is also General Secretary of the Communist Party of China Central Committee, met with former Taiwan leader Ma Ying-jeou in Beijing this afternoon. The last meeting between the two was in 2015 in Singapore. Timothy Lee reports.
At about 4 p.m. this afternoon, President Xi Jinping greeted Ma Ying-jeou at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing with a smile and warm handshake. In his welcoming address, Xi said Ma has always had nationalistic feelings and has always been against Taiwan independence. Xi highly praised Ma for his work in promoting cross-strait peace and in revitalizing the Chinese nation. Xi added both the mainland and Taiwan are part of the Chinese nation, which will not tolerate foreign interference. He said there is no problem that cannot be discussed and no power can separate the two sides. Ma Ying-jeou mentioned his previous meeting with Xi Jinping in 2015, when the pair shared common ideas of peaceful cooperation between people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. Ma said Beijing and Taiwan should uphold the 1992 consensus and oppose Taiwan independence, while seeking to find common ground and peaceful development. The former Taiwan leader said he hopes the two sides will have more cooperation and make the nation proud on the global stage. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Polls have closed and counting has begun after South Koreans voted in parliamentary elections, which will have a big say in the rest of President Yoon Suk-yeol's term in office. The vote can legitimately be seen as a referendum on Yoon's leadership. His People's Party is struggling to push laws through Parliament, and a boost to the ballot box will help. One of the issues bound to cross voters' minds as they went to place their mark will be the ongoing junior doctor strike, which has caused surgical operations to be delayed. Economic factors will also play their part. Yoon has been criticized for not understanding the current financial strain on many households, although the opposition Democratic Party has been accused of the same arrogance. Welcome back. U.S. President Joe Biden says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's approach to the war against Hamas is a mistake. The The rift between the traditional allies appears to be growing. David Garrett reports.
As Joe Biden was engaging with and entertaining the Japanese leader, an interview was played out on a Spanish-language network. In it, the US president is critical of his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu. Recorded last week, Biden accused Netanyahu of making a mistake, saying he does not agree with Israel's approach.
There are Americans who are still being held hostage. We just found out that an American that was thought to be held hostage actually was killed. So this is very much an American issue. The Israelis have their own interest in wanting to see this move forward. The way that this is being fought is costing them standing in the international community. And so all these things together create a situation where maybe something will happen. Hamas has been very intransigent because I'm not convinced that Hamas is eager for a deal. Hamas is very, very happy for things to happen such that Israel's standing falls.
Biden says Israel should just call for a ceasefire and allow for 6 weeks total access to food and medicine. Israel says it is allowing more aid in. The US acknowledges this. The UN says there has been no significant change in volume of aid as the latest convoy of trucks entered the Gaza Strip via Rafah, with less than half the trucks needed getting in. People keep dying on a daily basis. Mediated peace talks continue but won't help at least 11 people, some children, killed in central Gaza in an attack late last night. Hamas says the latest proposals for a ceasefire do not meet Palestinian militant factions' demands. Australia says recognising a Palestinian state is the long-term answer for peace.
Recognising a Palestinian state, that one that can only exist side by side with a secure Israel, doesn't just offer the Palestinian people an opportunity to realise their aspirations, it also strengthens the forces for peace, and it undermines extremism. It undermines Hamas, Iran, and Iran's other destructive proxies in the region. So I say to you, a two-state solution is the only hope of breaking the endless cycle of violence.
David Garrett, TVB News.
Also in the U.S., the parents of a Michigan teen who shot and killed 4 classmates in 2021 were each sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison on Tuesday. In a rare case of parents taking responsibility for their child's crime, the jury convicted both parents of manslaughter. The sentences came immediately after several of the victims' parents gave emotional statements in court. Tracy Furness has more.
James and Jennifer Crumley were sentenced to at least 10 years in prison for failing to take steps that could have prevented the killing of 4 students in 2021.
Parents are not expected to be psychic. But these convictions are not about poor parenting. These convictions confirm repeated acts or lack of acts that could have halted an oncoming runaway train. About repeatedly ignoring things that would make a reasonable person feel the hair on the back of their neck stand up. Opportunity knocked over and over again, louder and louder, and was ignored.
The Crumleys are the first parents in the US to be convicted in a mass shooting. And although they both apologized to the relatives of the victims, it wasn't enough.
The remorse that they were showing has nothing to do with taking accountability for their actions. I'm sure they were sad people lost their lives. I'm sure they're sad their son is in jail. I'm sure they're sad that they're in jail. That's not what's important. It was important for them to recognize that they made mistakes.
Ethan Crumley was 15 when he shot and killed 4 students in November 2021. His father bought him the 9mm semi-automatic handgun but failed to lock it away. 4 days later, on November 30th, Ethan shot and killed 4 students. On the day of the shooting, the Crumleys would not take their son for immediate counselling as suggested by teachers after Ethan had written violent messages in his school book. Ethan, now 17, is serving life in prison for murder. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A group of women from Switzerland, whose average age is 74, won a case on Tuesday in which they accused their own government of not doing enough to protect them from climate change. The European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg agreed with them. The court found Switzerland's efforts to meet its own emission reduction targets have been woefully inadequate. The Swiss government has accepted the findings and vowed to act on them. The group, called Senior Women for Climate, was cheered after the court's ruling. They said they were doing it for future generations. It is the first time a top court has ruled that a country's government has a duty to protect citizens from the effects of climate change. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.